In this lesson, we'll look at Active Directory groups. Active Directory uses two forms of security principles to represent physical entities. These principles are user accounts to represent a person and computer accounts to represent a computer. It would be laborious to assign rights and permissions to each individual account, so Microsoft created groups to make network management easier. However, a common question students ask is, if I have OUs or organizational units, why do I need groups? The answer to that question is that OUs allow you to organize users and computers together to facilitate delegation of control and to help with group policy, but they're not security principles. For example, you may have all your HR users grouped together in an OU named HR, but this won't help when assigning rights to shares or assigning rights in group policy because you can't add the HR OU when configuring rights from the Security tab. However, since groups are security principles, they can be used when configuring rights and permissions from the Security tab. Because of this, it's important to understand the different types of groups that you can create and why you would create those specific types of groups. Active Directory has two types of groups, distribution and security. Distribution groups can only be used by applications. For example, Microsoft Exchange uses this type of group to create groups of people that will receive an email all at once. Perhaps the most important thing to remember about distribution groups is that they cannot be used for security. Security groups, on the other hand, can be used for both security and distribution lists. So, in most cases, you'll probably only use distribution groups when you need a group where no security permissions are needed. Active Directory pre-configures several built-in accounts and security groups to ensure that certain essential tasks can be properly managed. Some of these groups can be found in the built-in container. For example, a domains administrators group gives its members unrestricted access to the whole domain. Other default groups can also be used, some of which can be found in the user's container. Besides the default security groups, there are different groups that you can create. These security groups are defined by where the group can be granted permissions. They include universal, global, and domain local. The largest scope is the universal group. It can grant permissions on any domain in the same forest or a trusting forest. Universal groups can contain accounts of global groups from any domain in the forest and are often used to assign permission to resources that are related but are in different domains. The global group scope is limited to the domain in which it's created. It's used to group users and computers such as users with the same network access needs. Global groups can grant permissions on any domain in the same forest or any trusting domain or forests, but it can only contain accounts or other global groups from the domain in which it was created. The domain local groups are also limited to the local domain and are used to assign permissions or user rights to local resources. They can contain accounts from any domain or groups in the forest, or any trusted domains, and even accounts, global groups, and universal groups from other forests. Still, they can grant permissions only within the domain in which it was created. As mentioned in the security groups descriptions, groups can contain other groups. This is called nesting. When using nesting, a group that is added to another group assumes the rights assigned to the group to which it was added. For example, if I have a group named HR and another group named Tech, and then I add the group Tech into the group HR, then the group Tech will get any rights assigned to the HR group, but HR won't get any rights assigned to Tech. In other words, the rights only go from parent to child. If you have an extensive network, nesting groups is a best practice to have the most flexibility and to be the most administratively efficient. When doing this, it may help to have a mnemonic to help remember the order of nesting that should be used. The mnemonic is AGDLP, or AGUDLP. This mnemonic will help you remember that accounts go into global groups and global groups go into universal groups. You put universal groups into domain local groups, and then you assign permissions to the domain local groups. If you have a smaller network and have no universal groups, you just put the global groups into the domain local groups. Let's look at an example. Here we have corpnet.com with a file server FS1. It has some shared folders, sales stats, sales reports, and sales schedules. We also have people who need to access these shared folders. They're organized into global groups, sales manager for the managers, and salespeople for the salespeople. Next, we create domain local groups into which we put the global groups. So we've created a domain local group for sales data _modify, which the managers will be able to modify, and sales data _read, which the salespeople will be able to read. So here we put our accounts into global groups and put the global groups into the domain local groups. Then we assign the rights to the domain local group. In this case, the sales data underscore modify was granted the modify right, and sales data underscore read was granted the read right. You may be wondering why you can't save time and just assign the rights to the global groups. To answer that, let's look at what happens when you start adding in more domains. Let's say that CorpNet gets another domain, east.corpnet, and it's set up the same way as CorpNet. They've got 3 shares for sales and a couple of global groups for the sales department managers and salespeople. Those get nested into a couple of domain local groups and then have rights assigned to the domain local groups. The advantage of nesting these groups becomes clear when you have a situation where you want all the managers in all the domains to have the rights to modify any of the shared folders. In this case, it can be done in just 2 clicks. We take the managers groups in CorpNet and add them to the modified group in east.corpnet.com. And then we take the managers groups in east.corpnet.com and add them to the modified group of corpnet.com. Without the 2 levels of nesting that we had set up, it would have taken a lot more work. We would have had to go to each group and add the managed sales execs to each of the shares here, 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 and vice versa. We would also have to remember which shares we gave out rights to. With nesting, we don't have to. 2 clicks and we've given every manager in the company rights to edit every shared folder in the company. This process works even better if you have more domains and add in universal groups. Let's add west.corpnet.com. We want to ensure that all managers in every domain can edit all shares no matter how many domains we add. So we create a universal group, Sales Managers Universal. We put all the sales managers global groups into the universal group and put the universal group into the domain local modified group. And we're done. So every domain has 2 clicks for everyone to have the correct rights. If, on the other hand, we had just used global groups, it would have taken much more time because global groups can only contain users from their own domains. So we would not be able to add users from other domains to the global group. The global group would have needed to be added to each of the shared folders. Imagine if there were 10 domains. Now we would have to add groups from 10 domains to every single share. That's a lot more work. If we had just used a domain local group, it would also have been a lot more work because domain local groups can only be used in the domain where they exist. So we would have to get a list from all the other domains and add all those users to each domain's local group. Either of these scenarios is a lot of hassle. Having the nested groups gives much more flexibility. If you have a small company with only 1 domain, it works fine just to use global groups. That's it for this lesson. In this lesson, we looked at the groups available in Active Directory for managing the network. We first looked at distribution groups, which can only be used by applications. Then we looked at the 3 security groups that can be used for assigning rights and permissions within an organization. These 3 groups are universal groups, global groups, and domain local groups. Then we looked at how those groups can be nested to help make network maintenance and administration more manageable.